Hello! So the Spartan 7W has been updated over the last couple of days to address some of the criticisms from the community following its initial release. So I thought we'd jump back into it and give it another fly. We're going to fly from Duxford in the UK. So I've discovered some fantastic scenery for Duxford on FlightSim.2. So if you're not aware, Duxford is one of the famous aviation museums in the UK. So they have lots of aircraft here, not just from the British Air Force, but from international air forces as well. So we'll have a look at them as we taxi out. Okay, so let's go and jump in the executive and see if we can remember how to get this thing started up. So yeah, propeller RPM on max. Fuel can go to rich. We will need, though, the fuel valve open. We'll also need the fuel tank selector on a tank. We'll go and turn on the batteries, which are over here somewhere. Master battery, there we go. And then we'll turn on the strobes and the nav lights. Turn on the magnetos. That's already on both. That's good. If you're wondering why some of the switches are in odd places, I've been playing around with the aircraft, trying things out to see how well it's modelled now, and it seems to be really, really good. So fuel valve is open. Boost pump can come on. Let's just turn the primer on for a second, and then we have an engine. So we'll close that starter, we'll switch off the boost pump, and we'll let it tick over for a few moments. So let's just go and have a look at the engine gauges over here. So we've got the parking brake on, just double check that, and as we bring up the throttle, just doing it very gently, watching the RPM here. So the RPM is raising. It lags a long way behind the throttle lever. As you can see, I'm just moving the lever gently over here. Okay, let's pull it back to idle. Sounds amazing. So I'm just going to check the volume levels so you can hear the aeroplane or hear me over it. Okay. So let's come off the... let's go and get the avionics on first before we do anything. So avionics can come on. Obviously you can see there's a bit of a bug here in the simulator itself, where if you've had avionics on in the past, they often come straight back on with no start sequence, which has just happened here. So we're going to turn the transponder on and calibrate the altimeter, calibrate the gyro compass if we need to. Doesn't look like we need to. And we are pretty much good to go. Let's just go and check the lights. So we're not going to use the landing lights. We don't need cabin. We don't need the window heats. So let's see how we get on. So the major concern previously, I'm going to come off the parking brake. So we've got no thrust at idle. I'm going to ease the throttle forward. And we have very good control over taxiing now. So that's fantastic news. Okay, let's just sit up in the cockpit then. Actually, but let's do this from outside so we can admire and listen to this amazing engine as we come out past the scenery at Duxford. So there's many, many hangars at Duxford, chock full of aeroplanes and static displays outside as well. So I'll do my best to recognise some of the aeroplanes as we go by. I can't guarantee I'm going to get them all right. Let's just check how loud this is, because this seems very loud where I'm sitting. Okay, so you've got a very accurate looking fire engine over here next to the control tower. And various ancillary buildings in the background with picnic benches. There's a Spitfire there in the picnic area, which is really lovely. Oh, okay, can I remember some of these? So this looks like an Ambassador. Is it a Bristol Ambassador, I seem to remember? With the triple tail. Then you've got a Vickers Viscount, I think this is. Then there's a Trilander. Oh, crikey. Monarch, what is it? It's a... Oh, crikey. No, it's escaping me what that is. I'll probably remember later. Obviously this is a British Aerospace 146. A Vickers VC-10. What is that called? It'll come to me later. This is a Trident, and behind it is a BAC 111, I think. Oh, what is that aeroplane called? That's going to annoy me. Anyway, so as we continue taxiing along, here's one of the museum hangars, one of the big ones. So you can see, obviously, this is the American aviation hangar, and you can see the tail of a B-17 hiding in there. There's a B-52 in there, I believe. You can see various things on the day that it was photographed for the scene recreation. That looks very much like a DC-3 hanging up off the ceiling in the corner there. It's very cool, though. Okay, so taxiing out towards the runway. There's actually a grass strip just this side of the runway, but we'll use the runway just to keep things simple. The Spartan is a great looking aeroplane though, isn't it? And now they've cleaned up the ground handling, it actually makes it quite good fun. So I actually had some feedback from a real world Spartan pilot, which was fantastic to receive. And he gave me some tips on how to fly it, or at least how he flies his. We're not sure how this is going to translate to the simulator, but I'll certainly give it a try. And it kind of rang a bell about flying the DC-3 as well, in that you fly it under power. So if you try three-pointing a Spartan, you'll end up doing ground loops. You know, if you try and stall it onto the runway. And the same, to make your life easy on takeoff, the easiest routine is to get the tail off the ground and fly it on the main gear along the runway until you're up to speed. So get the tail up as fast as you can. So we'll be pushing forwards as we accelerate. And we won't go hitting full power straight away. It's a big old engine. There'll be a lot of torque going on. It will try and yaw. So we've got live weather on. We've got a bit of a headwind down the runway, a little bit of a crosswind, but nothing too much to worry about. It's a lovely, lovely evening in the UK. Okay, so I'm going to straighten my view up. I'm going to pull the view over to one side. I've got no flaps. So I've gone for 50% throttle and then 75% throttle, and I'm pushing forwards on the stick just to lift the nose. There we go, so we're on the main gear now, and it's very, very controllable on this to keep it on the centre line. So we'll go forwards a bit more, get the speed up, and we can gently rotate, and we're in the air. So we can sit back down. Oh no, we were already sitting down. So if we have a look outside, we'll get the gear up. Duxford looks amazing, doesn't it? What a great place to fly this plane from. I'm really glad we chose it. So it's a beautiful afternoon in the UK. Great day to do this, and you can see the free scenery extends out to the local roads as well. Really, really good. Okay, let's just take this round on a circuit. Actually, let's do this from outside, because then we can admire the airfield as we go around and the aeroplane. So we'll come back to 75% throttle. It's very, very cool. So suddenly this transforms the Spartan, now the ground handling is fixed, into a really lovely aeroplane. But we'll see, I haven't landed it yet, so let's see how well I do. So we won't go for a touch and go, we'll just bring it in. So the real world pilot that advised me said they tend to go for the wing flaps first and then the belly flap. So we'll see how we go. I'll use the undercarriage first just to get the airspeed down, and then bring the flaps down afterwards. So let's just turn away from the airfield slightly, give ourselves more of a turning circle to come back in. Bit quieter inside, isn't it? But yeah, I'm really impressed that the developer managed to get the fixes out so quickly. So they've responded very proactively to feedback, which is fantastic. You don't always get that. Okay, let's pull back to 50% throttle, or even back less than that, and let's watch the speed come off as we turn. So then we can get gear down. So we're descending as well. There's a golf course below us. I'm sure the golf players in the audience will know exactly which golf course that is. So there's the airfield off of the left of our nose. So we'll just turn back in. I'm more interested in giving us lots of time today to investigate these various behaviours. So we're about 90 knots. So we're going to go for the wing flaps. So something else that I was told is very depending on the version of the aircraft, and there were modifications over time. The ones with switches have a system that just drops the flaps straight down to the full flaps. So once you've got the wing flaps, you can then do the belly flap, and you can see that extending down there. So you've got an enormous amount of flap area. So the trick now is we fly it in under power. So I'm going to leave the throttle at 50% even. So we're about 80 knots at the moment, but we are actually losing speed. It's very, very stable, but then we're very lucky with the weather this evening. It does look really nice. So this is reminiscent of the DC-3, where if you do an under power landing, then you still have thrust from the propeller over the tailplane, which helps you orient the plane. Now the real world pilot said that we keep the tail off the ground for as long as possible, which aids us in avoiding a ground roll. So we'll see how we get on with that. I'm not sure how accurately the simulator is going to deal with this, because obviously it's going to be using its own internal physics engine, but the simulator does do fluid dynamics, and it does simulate, you know, P effect or slipstream effect, or sorry, P factor and slipstream effect and all those kind of things. So still under power. Let's pull it round onto the runway, let it fall. It's 50% throttle still. We just touched down gently, and then we can pull the throttle back. I'm pushing forwards and keeping us fairly straight as well as I can. Let the tail fall, and tail's now on the ground. And that made a huge difference following that technique. So it became very, very predictable just by following the procedure. So obviously now we're on the ground, we can raise the belly flaps back up, he says, as famous last words, and we can taxi back in. So yeah, huge difference that this update to the aircraft has made, and plus having the feedback from the real world of how to operate the aeroplane made a difference as well. So let's just get off the runway, and then we'll come back in and park next to these Booker Youngmans that were parked down on the apron over here. There's another enormous hangar over here. I feel a day out is coming on where I go and visit Duxford Museum. They've got all manner of aircraft here. They've got the Blackbird is here. They've got one of the very few remaining TSR2 airframes is at Duxford. Okay, let's go and steer over here. So yeah, you can see it's fantastically modelled. Really well done to the development team of both the aircraft and the scenery here. Okay, a bit further forward than we wanted to be, but it doesn't really matter. Okay, so how do we get this thing closed down? So we'll pull the mixture back, pull the propeller back, we turn the lights off, we can go and turn off the fuel valve and the fuel selector switch. We can go and... we never turned the alternator on. We were running on batteries that whole time. Whoops. This is what you get for not following procedures properly or not having a paper procedure in front of you. So normally, I guess you'd have a knee board in the real thing just to make sure you've done things correctly. And you'd be checking things like the amperage, which obviously I didn't. Okay, so yeah, alternator's off, master battery switch can come off, and we're good to go. So yes, enormously updated aeroplane, and those small tweaks to the handling, I mean, it was already good, but those small tweaks to the handling have made a huge difference, and obviously the real world feedback on how to fly it in, you know, the way the real thing is flown made a huge difference too. So are they simulating the heat still pouring off of it? That's really cool. Either that or maybe it's a bug, I'm not sure, but that's cool. If that is heat, that's fantastic. Anyway, I'm going to leave it there. So that was the Spartan 7W in Microsoft Flight Simulator. See you soon.